chances are you aren't applying enough sulfur to your corn or your soybean crop. Now, I remember when I got out of college in 2009 and I started working in retail sales. That was right around the time that people really started talking about actually using sulfur as a fertilizer in our row crops here in eastern Iowa. Now, up until that point, we didn't really have to do it because all of our rainfall was actually slightly acidic, because by burning the fuel, particularly our less refined diesel fuels, we were getting that sulfur put up into the air, and then we were getting slightly sulfuric acid rain coming down, which would then fertilize our crops. But we eventually wanted to clean up some of our fuels, which actually led to fewer sulfur emissions, which meant that we were getting less sulfur through our rainfall. So now we have to fertilize it on purpose. Now, sulfur is an important one for a couple of reasons. It's actually really important for that plant to be able to uptake and utilize the nitrogen. So if you continue to increase the rates of nitrogen, if you don't have adequate soil, you're not going to see quite the response per added unit of nitrogen than you otherwise would have. Now, sulfur likes to exist in the soil as sulfate, or SO4. The important thing to know about sulfur is that it acts in the soil much like nitrogen does, where it can leach through the soil profile. That's one of the reasons why it's important to fertilize sulfur yearly based on the crop needs, just like we would nitrogen. So how and how much sulfur should we be applying to corn and soybean crops in eastern Iowa? First thing is form. If you're applying in the fall, consider putting on, as well as a sulfate form, an elemental form, because just like nitrogen, we could be losing some of that sulfate before the plant gets to it. If we apply an elemental form of sulfur in the fall, then that sulfur will be breaking down throughout the year and supplying that to the crop. If we're applying in the spring, it's important to try and make sure that most of that is in the sulfate form, so it's available right away for that growing crop. Based on studies across the Midwest, for that 200 to 220 bushel range, we're looking at about 20 to 25 units of sulfur per acre in a corn crop, and in that 65 bushel per acre range on the soybeans, about 10 to 15 units per acre. Now, this will fluctuate based on a couple of different things. Most notably, it's going to fluctuate based on your organic matter level in your soils. You're going to see the best response in sandier soils and tapering responses as we start to increase the organic matter, because just like with nitrogen, we get sulfur released as organic matter mineralizes. Got any questions? Let me know.